Welcome or welcome back. I know I disappeared from my channel for a while. I was so busy with my work and it's been so hectic in offline life. And also my grandson started the daycare and he's getting sick and his parents getting sick. And of course we're getting sick too. So it's been a while. I've been planning for a while to do a series about cruise companies. You know, I love cruising and I fell in love with cruising first time I stepped on a ship, and it's been in 2019. That was my very first cruise on Royal Caribbean Freedom of the Seas. Before that, I never wanted to go on a cruises because I am prone to seasickness so badly. I was so scared. For many years, my husband tried to convince me to go cruising and I was like, no. And then finally, thanks to my husband and our friends, we got to our first cruise. And like I said, it was on Royal Caribbean Freedom of the Seas. So I want to start my series from this company, from Royal Caribbean. And then I want to continue to talk about this company, ships of Royal Caribbean, and then I will move on to different companies. I will tell you interesting stories, scandals, history, and everything related. There is a moment when you step on board on a modern cruise ship and you can't help but thinking, how on earth did it start? Because you see all these water slides, fountains, parks, thousands of people, and you can't believe your eyes. Everyone is saying that it's like a floating city, and basically it almost is. But honestly, for me, I was sold when I stepped out on the balcony of our cabin for the very first time, and I saw nothing but sea and a horizon, and I was sold, and I said, yes, I love it, and I want to do it as much as I can. So my life completely changed. It all started by sailing by the company of Royal Caribbean. To understand how we got today where we are right now with cruising, we have to look back, and we have to travel back almost as long as I live. Back to 1968. The man who was Miami hotelier at Stefan noticed that Americans were suddenly obsessed with traveling in Caribbean. So he did something crazy at that time. He convinced somehow 3 rival Norwegian companies to invest and launch a cruising line. So in 1970, they launched their very first cruise ship and they named it Song of Norway. Well, back then, they didn't build a special cruise ship. They took a transatlantic ship and they refurbished it and made it a cruise ship. It used to be just a transatlantic ocean liner. So they made the Song of Norway different because it was made for cruising around Caribbean. So they made open pools, and the ships were specifically made for island hopping. That's how Royal Caribbean introduced ultimate trademark, the Viking Crown Lounge. It was very futuristic for that time, circular observation lounge wrapped directly around ship's smokestack. And if a ship didn't have that flying saucer looking funnel, it wasn't a Royal Caribbean ship. And then Royal Caribbean ran into the massive problem. Even though demand was exploding, people loved cruising and ship filled completely. But building a new ship takes years. So Royal Caribbean decided to do some mad science instead. So in 1978, they took their very first ship, Song of Norway, into the dry dock. And they literally sewed the whole ship completely in half. They slid 2 parts apart and they dropped prefabricated 85-foot middle section and welded it all back together. They literally stretched ship and added more cabins And it worked beautifully. So by the mid of the 1980s, Royal Caribbean entered a massive race against their rivals. At that time, Carnival were to build the biggest ship in history. In 1988, they launched a Sovereign of the Seas, introducing a multi-story centrum atrium that made the ship look like luxury land hotels. But the real shift happened in 1999 when Royal Caribbean introduced Voyage of the Seas. People of the maritime industry thought that Royal Caribbean lost their minds. They built an indoor shopping mall so much familiar for us now. Shopping Mall Street down the center of the ship. And then they put full-sized ice rink inside the vessel that was cruising around Caribbean islands. Again, one of the wonderful features of Royal Caribbean ships now. But the critics said it was just an expensive gimmick. The public couldn't get enough of it. From stretching tiny ships in 1970 to building the monstrous icon of the seas today, which is literally 5 times larger than Titanic, Royal Caribbean proved that if you build bigger and wider, people will come, even people like me. But to be honest, I like middle ship. I don't like the very big ships, but still, any ship is wonderful. But you know, the bigger the ship is, the less seasick you can get. But of course, it wasn't, during the years, it wasn't a smooth sailing. In the next episode of this series, we'll be diving in the dark side of the seas, including massive 27 million environmental cover-up and one of the most famous and unsolved true crime mysteries in the cruise history. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and let me know in the comments what you think. What was your very first ship you sailed? And I'll see you in the next video.